You've reached the Peak Perspectives, with your hosts, AP and VC. Get to know Denver and the surrounding area through the people who make it special. We sit down for engaging interviews and discussions with individuals who have unique connections to the Mile High City and beyond. Welcome to Peak Perspectives of Colorado, as we uncover the heart of Denver, one story at a time. I'm your co-host, VC, and in today's episode, it's a very good conversation with our guest, Michael E. Horton. Now, here's your host, AP.
Hey, Vix, good to see you again. Mike, glad you're with us. Glad you could join us out there today. Now, Michael, what we want to do is let people know a little bit more about you on a personal level. A lot of times people, they recognize the name, you may recognize the face, but they may not know really what's going on with you. How did you get to where you are now? What were your influences growing up and so forth? So let's start back at the beginning. Now, I know you said you grew up around 32nd and York Street. So why don't you go ahead and take it from there and let us know what your childhood was like?
Well, if you want to start back in like kindergarten, once I got out my house, I actually started over in North Denver in the what they call Quanset huts. Back in the day, the Army, if you was just getting out the Army, they put you in these huts where one family's on one side, another family's on another, and it was like a cardboard box that split you up. Okay, so that's when I was like a real young 5, 6-year-old, and so I moved from the hut to the projects. Okay, so the projects on the north side was like a step up for me. And so, I learned a lot of little street stuff in the projects because, everybody's for themselves and everybody is doing all kind of stuff. All kind of stuff is going on in the households, and, you meet these young kids coming from crazy environments and you start doing crazy things in the streets. So I was running the streets like a 4 or 5 block area on the north side. And my mother was married to a guy whose mother was fortunate enough to buy a house on York. Okay. Now that area was at that time, like Hollywood to me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you move up on York Street, it's nothing but white people on both sides. And, I'm like, we living here? We was packed in there. My mother had, first 2 kids, but then she had another one. And we was in there with my uncle and his wife. He didn't have any kids. So there was like at least 6 or 7 of us in that house. And I don't think the neighbors knew because they didn't care. They was like, these black people in our neighborhood, what's going to happen? So we kept our lawn looking good and all that stuff. We didn't keep noisy household. We had all kind of little rules. But I, in particular, felt constrained because I was used to that freedom in the projects, running around, doing all kind of stuff that, young people do that you think is exciting.
Right.
We would go. So anyway, I got there, let's say 7 years, 8 years old. And I noticed that some guys would gather on the corner of like 32nd and York every day. So I'd go down there, they were older guys.
Right.
And I listened to their conversation. They talking about all kinds of stuff, but I thought I was somebody because they let me listen. Okay. So after a while, I learned that they were doing all kind of stuff too. They was going in stores, robbing stores, and doing this, that, and the other. And then I had to be worthy of their presence. I had to, go around and do what they do, so that I could talk about what I did. Because, for instance, if we went into a store and just grabbed some candy bars and then haul ass out the store, we would sit back on the next day at the corner and talk about, how much did you get? So anyway, I did that for a while, and I thought I was somebody. But I was also having all kind of problems in my dreams, that something was in me that said, this ain't right. It's exciting, but it ain't right.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be. And then I also was kind of a bigger guy than a lot of my friends. That I went to Columbine. Columbine Elementary was a mixture of white kids, black kids, but black kids of with some good background. So I told you I was a thug. So I come in there, do this, do that, or I'll bust you upside your head. So I was a bully in kindergarten. And by the time I got to third grade, I started having psychological issues about, my behavior. So then I think around fourth or fifth grade, I started going to that Mount Calvary Lutheran Church, which was about 4 or 5 blocks from my house, straight down York Street.
Mm-hmm.
I go in there, I don't know nothing about Jesus or, I don't know nothing about religion. All I know is how to survive,
mm-hmm.
okay, in the streets. And everybody was my enemy. It ain't no such thing as a friend in the streets. You come, you watch your back at all times.
Right.
So I started going to these little Sunday school classes, and at first it was, I can't wait till this class is over so I can get out of here and go back and do something crazy. So, but then I started kind of having, I told you, little conscience problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, believe it or not, one day I'm standing outside the church, and it seemed like some kind of cloud came over me. I was like, something, I don't feel right. It's like, wow, what is this feeling? So I stood against the wall of the church for a long time thinking that this thing would blow away. Okay? But it was on me. So when I walked home, it was still on me. And it was like a voice talking to me.
How old were you at this time, Michael?
I was in about the fourth, fifth grade.
Wow. Okay.
Like going on 8, 9, 10 years
Right.
old. Man. And like I said, I was a kind of a big guy at that time, but I stopped going down there on the corner hanging out so much because this little voice was telling me, stop lying. Because I was a constant liar. All the, just everybody in my house was lying. So that's
It just
all
came natural,
I knew.
huh?
Yeah,
It was just natural.
It was like, you don't tell the truth. You crazy. So anyway, I'm saying, well, no. Plus, all the lies, you would see what happens to people who lie constantly. You would see, at least my brothers and my relatives, I see bad things happen to them because they get caught in their lies. Okay. So anyway, I stopped lying so much. And by the time I get to Cole, man, I'm changing really like totally because um, I can't hang with people. Okay, I got to do this. Can you see me now?
There you go. There you go.
I must have set back too far. But by the time I get to 7th, 8th grade, I'm kind of becoming a good guy. Okay, in terms of the girls was treating me cool at when I was leaving Columbine. My mother, she always made me dress well, so I couldn't go play in the dirt and all that kind of stuff because I messed my threads up.
Yeah.
I get in trouble when I go home. So the girls started treating me with a little more respect. So I'd be going playing with the girls. So by the time I get to Cole, I'm a kind of a popular guy on a low level. I'm not real popular because there are some people that remembered me.
Yeah, kind of a player in training.
Before.
Okay. And then let me tell you this other side. This is a sidebar. Okay, so as I started off in 1st and 2nd grade, they put me with the developmental people. In other words, you're a slow learner. It takes a lot for you to learn.
Right.
Okay. And then I could tell the difference between my class and then the class that were supposed to be average kids.
Right.
And then there's the smart kids. I could see how they was treated differently. So by the time I got to 3rd grade, they moved. I had an opportunity. They didn't really move me. I had an opportunity to change class. So I went from, what I call the slow learners to the average. Now, this I also realized later on that there was a camaraderie between us. When I was down with the slow learners, we still was having fun. We was still down there talking about, oh, they think we don't know this, but we know it. They think we can't do this, and we can. Okay, so we had a camaraderie, and we did not want to spoil that. Okay, so but when I got this opportunity to move to another level, see, I'm like hauled ass. This movie called Friday, when the uncle won some kind of lottery, and he moved out into the neighborhood, and he was talking about, I know I said I wasn't gonna leave.
Right.
You know that thing? Oh
Yeah.
man, I died of that thing because I could relate.
Right.
So anyway, I get into the next class, average people, and I started seeing the difference between how people treated me, gave me a little more respect than when I was with the slow learners. So even though I didn't want to mess up the camaraderie, I wanted to keep that respect. Okay. So then I said, well, to get ultimate respect, you got to get up here with the fast learners.
Right.
Okay. And I really didn't know how to do that because, wasn't nobody teaching me how to read and how to write and how to do this, how to study. See, you got to be taught how to study.
Right.
Because you don't sit down and put the book in front of you. You're like, what does study mean? All that I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew this. When they had this little debate about this issue or that, I could tell the the students that studied. I can tell. I said, man, these people, they went home and they either discussed this with somebody else before they came here because, their thing was tight.
They was on it.
Yeah, they was on it. So I said, I want to be like that.
Mm.
So I come home and I couldn't read no paper. The paper was too complicated, man. To read all those words. I said, man, I'm not reading the paper. But my mother, this is around 5th grade now, she started reading to me. She started getting books and she would read to me and fall asleep while she reading.
At least you stayed awake.
Yeah, I stayed awake. But then I still could get some benefits because I started hearing words and seeing how you use them in sentences and stuff like that. So I started, okay, I can read now. I'm 5th grade, right? I'm telling myself I can start reading on my own because my mother was sleeping on the job. Okay. So I'm gonna move ahead and say that. Don't forget that I had already had this, let's call it a spirit jump on me from that Mount Calvary Lutheran church.
Yes, sir.
So I start doing less lying. I would lie because telling the truth all the time could get you in trouble. So anyway, I start lying. I start studying. I started doing mathematics, and by 8th grade, I started taking geometry. And man, I started learning all this stuff about how you could put different figures together and how you could argue, how you could prove that this is this. So I get in the class and I said, oh, this is the bomb right here. This is what I wanted to do when I saw those debates in elementary school. And man, I'm into geometry every day. And so I started just getting a lot of respect in my math classes over at Cole because I started changing my habits, from playing in the street all the time to taking this geometry book and reading it. Because a lot of the concepts I didn't understand till like months later, but I kept putting it in my head. And then like a few months later, I said, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
The first time I did, I said, I don't know what they're talking about. What is this? What is a theorem? What is a, come on, man. So started doing better on these tests and stuff. And by the time I get to high school, they'd have put me in advanced math class because I'm coming up with these answers, and he's like, this must be a mistake because that's like, that boy was crazy back in the day. Okay, this cannot be happening. So I go into class with these smart people who've been getting straight A's and stuff like that all their life. I go in the math class, they say, hold it, let me look at your schedule because you're not in our class. And I said, well, here it is. So I'm sitting in there, and the first time I'm in there, they looking at me like, hey, we either coming down or something ain't right. So we start doing homework, and I start getting calls from some of these classmates who's supposed to be brilliant, right? Mm-hmm. How did you do this problem? How did you do that problem? And I'm having trouble with this. How you do that? And I'm like, okay, well, you do this, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, man, I'm accepted in the class. Somebody said, man, this cat is the real deal. Holyfield, if you call it like that. he's not a fake, or it's not, the system did not make a mistake. So I learned a whole lot of habits from them. Sitting in their class, I noticed that they do not play with study. When they leave that class and go home, they study.
Right.
They don't study what was just due the next day. They study a week or two ahead. Okay, so then when it comes up in the class, they already know what the next deal is.
Yeah.
See? And it's almost like when you learn how to play Biz Wiz, for years you might not know how to play, right? Because you're just watching people, right? You don't know what the deal is till one day it just dawns on you. Oh, this is what. Okay.
When you get so many Bostons run on you,
Yeah.
huh?
You said, okay. So that's what happened to me. I started just realizing more and more, man. But then I started drifting away from that spirit that was on me had been on me for about 6 years. Because, I wouldn't be going to church as much because my mother and father didn't go to no Lutheran church. They would just send me and my brothers. Okay, so by the time I'm in the 11th grade, I'm all high and mighty, talking about, yeah, there's a God, but I don't need to go to church. I don't need to do all that now. That's a little too far. So I didn't claim to be a Lutheran, or I didn't claim to be religious. And then at the same time, they was having the riots and stuff, and the black, what they had those guys that used to wear the leather coats and
the Black Panthers.
Black Panthers, right? They was all around, so I wanted to be a Black Panther. Anyway, I'm gonna blow past all those stories. My music career. See, I started playing music with my cousin. His name was Marcus Jackson. He called me up one day when I was like maybe 6th grade, and he, at that time I was practicing my little saxophone, and I had made all city band and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just playing the saxophone every day. So he called me up and said, "Hey man, we want to start this group." And we want you to play the saxophone. And I was like, man, what are you talking about? I don't know. I don't know what to do. Man, just play. So he would play to me on the phone, man. He'd play a song on the phone, and he said, just play to that. And I said, what? Yeah, just play. And I just start playing. I just start playing. And he said, yeah, that's what I like. Keep that.
So you played by ear, Michael?
That's right. By
okay.
ear, I didn't know what I was doing at all. So we would go to these little contests. These little ice cream bars and stuff would have talent shows on a corner, especially up in Park Hill area. So every week we was at a different creamery competing for the prize. They would have maybe 10 people show up and display their talent.
We're talking about the middle 60s here in Denver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Middle 60s. And we would show up and win the contest. Like the first time we won, man, we was like, we couldn't believe it. Man, we won, So we started going around winning everything.
Wow.
Okay. And so we started getting well known. And see, Marcus Jackson, his father was a musician. So he pretty much kind of knew what he was doing. But I know the rest of us in the band was just there. It had to be some kind of spirit that was making us sound so good to win these contests.
How many pieces were in the band, Michael?
We had about 6 or 7. We had a horn section. You know, a horn section would be 3 or 4 horns.
That was big back then.
Yeah, and we wouldn't know nothing about harmony. We would just, man, this note. You know, play that note. Yeah, you keep that, man. You know, that's all we did.
Right.
And so they had this battle of quartets back in the early 60s.
Uh-huh.
And we would try to win, go there each year and try to win it, but we never did win. We was coming in second and stuff, you know. I remember when Philip Bailey was singing this song by Gene Chandler. You ever heard of Gene Chandler?
Oh, yes, sir.
He had a song called Rainbow 65.
Mm-hmm.
And Philip's group got up there and played that, and then Philip dropped to his knees talking about, I just want to bite you or something. Man, all this went so crazy. They went crazy. They said, man, who is this? You know, nobody expected him to do that. And
so now was this about this was before you got in? I mean, you started getting a little bit kind of I would say semi big time, you know, Sammy Mayfield, Howard Bomar.
Yeah.
You know,
Sammy
Beecham.
was over there at Cole. See, Sammy was playing by himself or with another person we're at Cole. Cole used to have these sock hops early in the morning. So you would go there to meet girls, right? You go to the sock hop before school and dance, show the girls that you can dance.
Right.
And the girls would, you know, okay, I'm claiming him. You know, you didn't have nothing to do with it. The girls was claiming you, you know. Dad, that's my boyfriend. And you go, I don't want to be your boyfriend, you know what I'm about. Anyway, Sammy was playing the guitar.
Yeah.
So by the time we get to high school, Sammy was playing, he had his own group, but then sometimes he could play in our group. He'd come play with us.
Yeah.
So by the time we got out of high school, Sammy's well known around Denver because they say, you know, this high school boy named Sammy Mayfield, man, he could play that guitar. There were other guitar players around.
Right.
Now, I just can't think of their names. They was in too, but they wasn't playing the blues like Sammy.
Hardly anyone that.
Yeah, he knew that blues because that's all he listened to. See, we would listen to the radio and our records. And we was trying to be all around.
Right.
But to make a long story short, I had made all city and all state playing the baritone sax. And I sent a tape of myself down to A&M because I saw them march on TV on one of them football games.
That was it.
And I said, yeah, man, I want to be there, right? So I sent a tape down there. I knew it was a long shot. I said, I ain't gonna break me from Colorado, you know, way that Florida. And they sent me some money. Hey, we'll give you this much money. You come to school here, you know. So I was like stunned. I was just, oh man. So I talked about this guy, my cousin Marcus. They said that here's a tape too. And 2 of us was in him. Check story out. You know, for at least 2 years, Drake and them, we was going different places all around town, performing at homecomings and, you know, this dance and that dance. Okay? So we were well known. So, you know, come to find out that since Marcus is the only one that knows what he's doing, we cannot let him leave. Okay, you see what I'm saying? In other words, he's the one that tells us what note to hit to get the harmony. You know, I mean, he was doing it all. And so they wouldn't let him leave. They said, man, you leave, then we don't have nothing. Okay? So So they convinced him to stay. Now, the flip side of the music, you can be great as a musician, but you got to have your sound equipment. You got to have this, that, right? You got to get there on time. You got to do a whole lot of stuff that the audience don't see.
Right.
Well, that's what I did. I get the musicians there. I call them up in the morning. Get up, man. We got to be at such and such. You better be leaving your house when I call back. All that kind of stuff went on before the gig, if I could call it.
Right. Right.
So see, I was the one doing that. So it comes down to the whole music scene needed Marcus and me. But there was other groups too, but I'm just saying in our little clique,
right,
they needed both of us. Okay. But I was tired. I said, man, I'm tired of, telling you to do what you know you're supposed to do.
Babysit.
At some point, you got to grow up and learn how to do it on your own.
Right.
So I said, man, I'm going down there to Tallahassee, Florida. Because Marcus, he turned down his scholarship. They gave him a full scholarship, and he turned it down to stay in Denver, playing up at the Horizon and all these different 23rd Street, each shapes. He's playing at all the clubs.
Right.
Okay, and man, that life, it may look glamorous, but it ain't, because you be playing the same songs everywhere you go. You get tired of playing the same songs, and you could have some serious psychological issues after a while.
Burnout.
The repetition drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I left. I said, not me. I could just see what they were doing to him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I say they, I'm saying that the whole crowd that we ran with, I ain't throwing no names out under the bus, but we had Calvin and Sam and Tijuana and Ray and Roderick, and we had some girls. Man, we had all these people that's like we was a family, and we depended on each other. So I can see why he stayed, but I felt some people could have stepped up earlier and say, yeah, well, we don't want to keep him back, hold him back. We want to push him forward.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I left, man. I went down to Florida, and I couldn't march. See, there's a tradition down south about marching. If you, to this day, go down to Texas and Mississippi, Florida, man, the marching band is the bomb.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to these football games, man, you see these people marching, you go, my God, how did they learn how to do that? Their sound is big, powerful. They be marching down the street like, man, yeah. Okay. This is what we do. We can't wait to start marching. Man, I learned all that. And I come back to Denver and I'm saying, man, you all are way behind on, tradition, what Black people down south are into.
Right.
They don't give a damn about the football game necessarily. They want that halftime show to be the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And the pre-game show. They march to the stadium. Okay, that's a show.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You see them girls marching. You should see them. Oh my God, they do all kinds of stuff before the game starts. Okay, so by the time you get to the game, the place is packed.
Right.
Before the kickoff, because they want to see all this called pageantry, right? So I learned all that. Then some stuff went down about the Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl, because that's when Martin Luther King got killed. And I was involved in some stuff at Florida A&M. I wasn't a leader, but I was involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I was one that was saying, well, no, we ain't not going to the Super Bowl and perform because we're going to tell the world that everything is cool in America when it ain't. Okay.
Right.
So when they asked who wants to boycott the Super Bowl, I was one of them that said it. But we went anyway because the administrators was like, you know how much money we get for y'all to get to that game, and we really wanted to go because it was the first Super Bowl. But we wasn't going to trade off that for telling a lie about how it is living in America. So, but we did. We ended up going, playing everything. So the next year, which was my sophomore year, they want to kick me out the band. They want to take their money back. And, I was broke down. I shouldn't say my sophomore, my junior year, going into my junior year, told me that, I was like, oh, no, I can't come back if you don't give me that money. So it was like, well, see you later.
So that's when you came back and went up to CSU?
Colorado State, yeah. Now check this story out. I'm playing down at like the 23rd Street East, because when I came back, I was able to stay with Marcus and them and play with them. But then when I went back to school, I didn't. But anytime I came back, I could just play with them, wherever they was playing. So I'm down there at the 23rd Street East, and this guy comes up to me on break, and he said, yeah, I heard, this, that, and other thing about you. Hey, if you come to Colorado State, you don't have to pay a dime. Okay, I said, what? You lying? Because, at the time, they wasn't letting black people go to Colorado State. They was sending us to, I don't know the name of the junior colleges, but they were all junior colleges that most of the black people went to. So I said, you kidding, man? So I said, you send me a letter, and then I'll believe you. Man, I got a letter said if I sign on the line and come up to Colorado State, I don't have to pay a dime.
Wow.
Okay. And I said, oh man, I can't believe this. And then I called, Florida A&M called and said, we changed our mind. We want you back.
Oh.
Okay.
Too little, too late.
Too late, right. That's right. Too late. I'm going to Colorado State. See you. This is what you did to me. Okay. So I go up to Colorado State, man, it's 22,000 students. And 200 of us are black. Okay. Now, by this time, I'm a junior. And so 100 of the 200 are freshmen. And do you know by the time the first semester is over, 100 that then dropped out because they couldn't keep up, the whole pace of a university and all that. Man, 100 dropped out. So the next semester we sitting up with 100 people, and we don't know how to entertain ourselves. We have house parties to try to it be happy and stuff, But it was torture, man. Just being in Fort Collins, and then here come another 100 the next year. Okay, so by my senior year, we started getting people from all around the country coming to school there, and they had a group called the Black Student Alliance.
Yeah. That
represented the Black voice. But it was 200 of us, so they didn't really give a damn. We don't care about what they say. Okay, but we didn't know that. We thought, okay, well, the temperature of the country, we'll start some mess. So I was really trying to graduate. And so I would go to the meetings, and you hear all kinds of stories about people doing this and doing that. and they had a guy named Frank Mason. You ever heard of him?
Doesn't ring a
Frank
bell.
Mason. Frank Mason was a couple years ahead of me. He probably was the class of '65 at Manual. Well, he was the head of the Black Student Alliance, but he wasn't very fluent at whatever it is that makes you a good orator.
Articulate.
Yeah, he wasn't that articulate. He knew what he wanted to say,
but just couldn't get it out right.
He couldn't get it out right, right?
Yeah.
So they would have these meetings, and like I told you, when I learned in elementary school how to argue and see those debates, man, here I am in college, and all that came out of me. I would be debating and telling people what this is and that is, and they said, man, Michael Horton can talk. So we're gonna hook him up with Frank, and we're gonna let them go to the administration, tell them what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So then later on in life, it's almost like Moses and his brother, you know, because his brother could talk, but Moses had a little speech problem. Right. So we go up there and we say, well, look, we want our athletes to get an extra year, because all they do is come up here and play football and they don't learn a damn thing. Okay, they leave here dumb as they were when they came. Right. But they made you all kind of money.
Right.
To these games.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So we said that's got to stop. You got to give them another year to get a degree. So they said okay. And then we had some other demands. Right. And what put the icing on the cake is when Brigham Young came to Fort Collins to play us in basketball.
Oh.
And we had George Price and
was Rudy up there?
Yeah, he was a lower classman, but So we had some cats that could shoot that ball. Okay. George was from Texas, but they had a team, man, was like rated in the nation. So, we was somebody, because we said, well, Colorado, we're rated like in the top 25, we somebody. Right. So we didn't know that Brigham Young had some white players that could shoot too. Okay. They come in, they rated number 10. Okay. We rated number 25. But anyway, they came. And, at that time, that they had a policy that they had no black ministers in the Mormon race.
Right.
And we said, okay, well, if you don't let black people be ministers, you can't play on this campus. So they came, and we went out on the court and stopped the game. And it was almost a riot because, that basketball is like those people's entertainment in Fort Collins and stuff, man. They don't want no trouble. Man, we went out there, stopped the game. They brought in the police force. A guy threw a Molotov cocktail out there, and man, it made national news. Wow. They said these Negroes in Fort Collins, Colorado have gone stone crazy.
Yeah. Oh, God. That's all we needed, huh?
Yeah. We was like, man, it was walking around on pins and needles all the time up there. Because we said, man, these old racist crackers up here in these country places, they're going to come get us one at a time.
But you got through that.
We sure did. We sat down and negotiated with the administration, and I think the state legislators called CSU and said, if you don't control, you ain't got but 200. If you can't control them, we will send somebody who can.
Wow.
Okay. So those leaders up there, the administrators, they start giving us what we wanted because they wanted to keep the tension down.
Right.
Okay, keep their jobs. So we was somebody. I ended up graduating. I came out in mathematics and stuff. Ain't no black people around me when I was going to class.
Isn't that ironic though that you got your degree in mathematics?
That's right. So because I was in mathematics, this guy one day, he come through looking like Superfly. He had a maxi coat on. He looked like he was straight from Detroit. And we said, well, who is this? And the Black Student Alliance had an office down at the Student Union. So I'm sitting in the office in like a Huey Newton chair.
One of those peacock chairs, right?
Yeah, one of those big, yeah.
Yes,
he
sir.
came in there, he said, who's the leader? And I said, I'm the leader. What you want? And he said, well, look, we're looking for people in this, that, and the other in mathematics. And
Wow.
I heard you in that. Make a long story short, man, he said, you can get a scholarship to Carnegie-Mellon. And at the time, I was like, whoa, who's Carnegie-Mellon?
Yeah.
I don't know. I ain't heard of no Carnegie-Mellon.
Yeah.
So then I went and looked it up, and I said, oh, this is a bad school right here. Mm-hmm. So I got a scholarship to Carnegie-Mellon.
Wow.
So I drive to Pittsburgh, man, all by myself again. And because I didn't tell you that I went through a lot of trauma being down in Florida by myself.
Right. I can imagine.
Yep. So anyway, I go to Pittsburgh. I'm a little more, acclimated to being by myself. But, Carnegie-Mellon was kicking my ass. And, they telling me all about all kind of stuff I didn't know nothing about. And I thought I was something because I came out of CSU.
Right.
And they told me that, well, that's another level. We're on another level. If
They're ready to teach you something.
You got to learn this to hang with us. I thought I knew about studying. They said, no, studying means the following. And it was a whole system of stuff that they had us do every day, man. Pittsburgh University was down the street and they down there protesting and stuff. They was telling us, you better go to your dorm room and study this material that we talk about.
Wow.
Okay. And we said, well, what kind of stuff? You don't care about what's going on in this country? Yeah, we care, but it don't mean nothing to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we get ready to learn about this accounting principle or game theory, all these kind of things that, I never heard of, really. And to make a long story short, they taught me a whole lot about economics, accounting, math, statistics, a whole lot of stuff that I could put together like I did when I was in 8th grade in geometry.
Mm-hmm.
I started putting all that, and I said, oh, you need to know all this to run a city. See, running a city ain't just nothing easy. You got to have all kind of information coming to you so you can make good decisions on how to keep the city running.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I figured out that they brought me there because I could talk and they could teach me this stuff, and then they could send me to a place like Washington, D.C., and I could tell, let's call it the natives, how to do shit. Okay,
right.
And so, but I had to figure that out as I went, right? Because they didn't never lay it out like that. And then I'm bypassing some stories that I went through in Pittsburgh, but I got to D.C. I worked for the city for 3 years, and I saw some issues about DC government on the promotion side. So I ended up going over to the Congressional Budget Office thinking that was a glamorous position, and it wasn't. It was like I was in a room every day doing math problems, okay, all day. And I said, this is the worst job in history. Okay, I can't just do this. So, I don't know what happened, but I think I got fired on purpose. Okay, I got fired. I ended up going down to the unemployment line and stuff, and I was embarrassed and all this stuff because, I'm like, damn, I got this degree, but I'm in the unemployment line.
Yeah.
Okay. But I guess it was happening to me for a purpose because now I learned, right? I said, okay, see, you thought you was all that, but you ain't nothing. You ain't but a week off of the unemployment line.
Right.
See, so I learned from that. But this guy I went to Carnegie-Mellon with, he's over at the government accountability office. And he said, well, we need help. Here, I get you a job over here. So he got me a job because he was, he was up and coming over there. And he got me in the door. Man, it turned out that was the bomb place because I got to learn so much about the government and how it works and how, the nation is connected. So I stayed here 23 years. And I loved every moment really until I found out they was discriminating.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, it was the same story, right? And so by the time I got out of there, I done started some mess, and they kind of just let me retire. They said, see, you done started some mess, and you did it right. So you got us behind the 8 ball, but we ain't changing.
Yeah. Business as usual.
Yeah, because it's too much at stake. They do all kind of stuff so that, if we change for you, it's gonna mess our whole show up. If that makes any sense to y'all.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So they said, here, what we're gonna do with you is just let you retire. So I retired at 55 years old. Okay. And then they said, you'll still get your same money. Okay, you just won't have no extra money.
Right.
But you're going to get your same check. And then all you got to do is stop making bills. And someday you're going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah.
Okay, so it took me about 10 years to cool all my bills out, which I gradually did.
Yeah.
And at around 10, 11 years after I retired, I was just getting money, every month. I was like having a ball. And, I could tell you a million stories, man. But what I learned from that government agency and what I learned in the streets of DC. Because I lived downtown and I used to play ball in the streets and I did this, that, and the other. But I stayed out of trouble. But I was close enough to see how things work.
Right.
Especially with the drugs and stuff. They were selling drugs right outside my house and I could see all that. So, by the time here I'm 70, I'll be 76 this in a couple months. So by the time I got to 70, man, I had what I would call supreme knowledge about how things work in this country. So, you know, for the past, say, 6 years, I started seeing my health deteriorate. Like when I turned 74, I start, feeling arthritis, all kind of little ailments in my body,
Yeah.
you know.
Join the club, man.
Yeah, so I was like, man, I go to a concert. I went to a Smokey Robinson concert, and everybody that came was about my age.
Mm.
And they all was walking in like me. I said, hundreds of people, they all walking slow. They all don't want to walk up them steps. Oh man, it was an eye opener.
Yeah. So now you retired.
Yep.
I see you studied a little music.
I've been retired 20 years, 22
Cool.
years.
So how did you get, I guess you and Jerry, how did it get to where you wanted to do this
Okay.
10-year reunion thing?
Me and Jerry were a part of this 67 class reunion thing for Manual.
Mhm.
And they wanted to do a reunion just for Manual, like every 5 years.
Mhm.
So the last one I went to, it was a whole lot of mess, in my opinion, on getting it together. We would have these 2-hour meetings once a month and so on and so forth. And there were so many of us on the committee that, it would take a long time to get one point across. So I started taking what I saw out at this at the park. This reunion thing Manual has at the park.
Mhm.
I saw that the young people had taken that over. They was playing all the young people's music, and that we didn't want to walk around the park like we used to, because it's really a lot of camps, right? When you go out there, everybody got a little camp all over the park. So in our particular group, we would have to walk around to everybody's camp to say hello. And the first time I did that, I said, man, I ain't gonna do that no more. Okay. So then a couple years later, I said, man, we not that old. We still, people in their 70s can still get around, but we don't have to go out to the park and get disrespected, and looked over,
Right.
overlooked. So that's how me and Jerry started. We just started. We said, well, what you want to do? So I told him, I said, we need to do a 3-day thing, because a day is not enough to reconnect. You see somebody you ain't seen in 50 years, and you say, man, I want to talk some more. Like I'm talking now.
Right.
You can sit down and talk to somebody for 2 hours, and you go, oh man, I didn't know you went through all that in your life, and you still here to tell about it.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
So I said, man, one day is not enough for us. So let's just try 3 days, because my grandmother told me after 3 days the fish start stinking. Okay. So me and Jerry started meeting once a month, and we started putting all these plans together, and we hooked it up at the Renaissance last year. And I was scared. I thought it was going to be about 10 or 20 people that would come.
Mhm.
Plus I brought my family, like I made it a family reunion too.
Sure. Yeah.
So I get there, man, and the next thing I know, it was about 40 or 50 people that came, man, and I was stunned, So we pulled that off for 3 days, and they said everybody said they had a ball.
Good.
Okay, so it was like the first day we was playing games. The second day we went down to Fred Thomas Park, and it was covered. It was a glorious day. We sat out there. We had a DJ, and we would go from table to table, not camp to camp,
Yeah, yeah.
table to table, and talk to people that you hadn't seen in 50 years.
Right.
So then we had a little crisis on Saturday about the dinner because given that I thought only 10 or 20 people were coming, I told the hotel that we would just go to their restaurant and get a table because they wanted to charge us like $3,000
Right.
to set the banquet room up. And I
Yeah.
said, for 20 people, come on now. They said, well, that's our minimum. I don't care if it's 20 or 50.
Mhm.
That's our minimum. So I said, no, we'll just go to the restaurant. So they had been monitoring us. So when we got up on Saturday morning, we called down there and said, well, we coming in there now at 5 o'clock. And they said, no, you ain't. It's too many of y'all. It's too many of y'all. And a couple of us didn't come to work today, and we can't accommodate you. Okay? So I'm like, so what we gonna do? I don't know. But don't be coming down into this restaurant at 5 o'clock thinking you will take up all our space.
Right.
So we ended up going to Golden Corral. Golden Corral will put all this bulk food. They got a variety of dishes. They'll put it in a package for you.
Mm-hmm.
So we got all this food from Golden Corral and brought it to the hotel, to the same room that we had our little meet and greet games, that same room, but we put the food outside the room. And then we had a little band come up there and entertain while we was eating. Linda Lee.
Yeah.
Is Lee. She brought her band up there, and she was, they did an hour performance while we was eating.
So what's the
like a banquet? It was like a banquet.
Right. So now, what's the schedule for this year?
The schedule is the same thing this year. The Thursday night, we're gonna have a game night. We're in there playing Bid Whist and Uno and Jenga. Different tables have different games.
Mm-hmm.
But you play a game while you're talking.
Yeah.
To somebody. And you don't have to play a game. You can just sit there and talk. And we had a DJ, right? So we was listening to music, and you could, we were slipping in some drinks here and there. And, people was having a good time on Thursday. That's the same thing we're doing this year. The park the cookout is the next day on Friday, but it's not at Fred Thomas Park, but it's at Central Park, which is just a few blocks down from the hotel on Martin Luther King and Beulah Street or something, out there, Stapleton, that area. So I don't know what that's going to be like, but it's open to whoever comes.
Right.
Okay, whoever comes out there, if they bring their kids or whatever, as long as they bring their own food. Okay, because we can't feed. So this year, let's say we're anticipating, instead of 20, we're anticipating 40 or 50. Okay, like the capacity level at the hotel is 50. So 50 to 60 people.
Mm-hmm.
So Thursday, let's say if we have 50 people, then we might have 70 or 80 people at the park the next day. It all depends on the weather and what people are doing. So, but the park has capacity for, like 100, who knows? And then we can be out there a long time.
So this is at the Doubletree, right? Or for
yeah, the Doubletree.
32nd of Quebec.
Right. And then some people have called from out of town and said they're coming. There's people from Phoenix, from Atlanta. Like last year, there were several people from Atlanta that came. Okay? They're all coming back. Then some people from California, from Phoenix, from different areas came last year. And then this year, it'll be the first time some people have come. And so I guess some more people from Atlanta will come, some more people from Texas, some more people from Arizona, all that kind of stuff. And they'll be staying at the hotel.
Right.
We're getting a discount.
So just so that people know, we're talking about the 25th, 26th, and 27th of September next month. I got you. Okay. Now, what about cost? Are you looking at any cost for any of these events?
See, that's being thrown up now. That's being discussed because me and Jerry, we have a difference of opinion on that issue because I am of the opinion that if you come, you get to stay. Okay, and you ain't got no money, but you came. Okay,
right.
So you get to stay, and we'll all help you out. And so Jerry is kind of like, nah, that ain't gonna work. Okay. So right now our committee is Edith Gray, Jerry Taylor, and me. And I think Edith don't like not charging either. Okay. But see, I should preface that statement by saying that last year when we went to the Golden Corral, we got a lot of donations. We didn't charge people. We just said, go ahead and eat. And then we put out a box for donations and people packed that thing up. So it kind of offset all the money we put out for that dinner.
Right.
Okay. And it was cheap. It was cheaper than going to the hotel.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's the same thing I want to do this year. But this particular hotel allows us to bring a caterer in.
Oh, okay.
So right now we're searching for a caterer who will give us a price. So we're trying to close that deal out like next week. Okay. So just say for hypothetically, the caterer said, well, I can do 50 people for $2,500, $50 a shot, a plate. Then we say, okay, then they'll come in, they'll have all the food ready and serve it, and we'll have a good time on Saturday. The alternative is we could do like we did last year. We go get the food, we bring it, and then we have our own people serve. Okay, that's probably $1,000 less.
Right.
Okay, because Golden Corral, they pack it up now. They pack it up for $500. We get 2 of those packages, 2 or 3 of those packages for $500. Everybody can eat.
Gotcha.
Another alternative is pay extra money and let the hotel do the dinner. But then it'd be like first class. They didn't have the thing laid out, and tablecloths and silverware. It's gonna be like a real big banquet type of thing.
Right.
But you gotta pay for all that.
Oh yeah.
But I'm the guy that said, well, it's worth it because this is going to be in people's memory, and for some of us, it may be the last time.
Oh yeah.
It may be my last dinner with my high school friends.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I'll tell you what, Mike, it's really been good having you on here with us today.
Okay.
Hearing your story. I wish we had more time, but you know what? We can always have you come back.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And especially if you want to get this
talk so much.
No, that's what this is all about. That's exactly
me
what
up.
it's about.
Okay.
And you know, shoot me an email or something if you got some updates you want us to talk about in terms of the reunion. We can get that information out to our listeners as well. Okay.
Okay.
But other than that, brother, I want to thank you again for coming on.
Yes.
Okay. And we will definitely be talking to you again soon.
All right.
All right. Take care, man.